When radio was raw and wild, PJ was in charge. Producing radio and TV for some of the greats in the industry, PJ has seen it all. From Disco Duck to What the F***. This is Streaming Legends with PJ.
Hey everyone, it's PJ with you. And today on the show, we've got my buddy and legend in his own shower, and also a broadcast legend, Jack Silver, with us. And Jack and I are going to talk about some of the highlights of his career so far, including working with the likes of Howard Stern, Rick Dees, Pat McAfee, and much more. So you're going to want to stay with us. It's all happening right now on Streaming Legends. All right, well, we've got Jack Silver with us on Streaming Legends. Thank you for coming to the show and joining us today, Jack.
Well, I assume there was a plethora of guest bookings that dropped out.
No, we're just very short on time, so thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
That was the quickest interview I've ever been involved in, Tall Paul.
I told you it'd be fun and quick, and there it was.
Gotta go.
Hey, it really is good to have you here, and
Thanks.
you're a legend in not only production but producing, and you're a program director, and you've done so many things in radio that we thought it'd be very entertaining to get you on and kind of hear some of your stories and hear, the types of things you were involved with and you still are involved with.
Sure.
And maybe, even some of these great stories that you've come across when you've dealt with these big stars that you have to deal with in this industry,
Yeah, no, it's cool. Well, I, first of all, to say I'm a streaming legend is very flattering.
Okay.
Maybe a little misplaced, but if you think I'm a legend, then I'll count me in.
You see the sign?
Well, then darn it, I'm a streaming legend, Paul.
You are a streaming legend.
Right. Well, long story longer, I think the top three jobs I've had in radio broadcasting, because it's mostly been radio, been a little dabbling here and there in some other projects, but basically radio.
Yeah.
I would have to put it in this order. Once I got to be a program director of an FM talk radio station in Los Angeles. That was a 12-year run, which in radio terms, it's like dog years.
That's dog years.
Can you imagine?
No.
So in those 12 years, I got to work with everyone from Howard Stern to Tom Leykis to Tim Conway Jr. to a variety of talk show hosts. And it was really a fun era. And what I try to tell people along the way when they're looking at their careers, you got to look at them in chunks. And if you get a good 12-year run at a radio station like that with big name talent, big ratings, big revenue, it's just smooth sailing. Now, it was rocky at the beginning.
Yes, of course.
Well,
and I want to talk about some of those rocky times, but I want you to really, if you will, to kind of lead off with maybe your highest high. And if I'm guessing, would that be Howard Stern? Would that be Rick Dees? Where would that be?
Yeah, I would say there's three highs, three of the, when we can try to rank them. The first one would be the Howard Stern years, the FM talk years. They were great.
Right.
Then I would say the second best was the years I spent with NBC Sports Radio, because I'm a big sports fan. And when you combine your love for radio and your love for sports, it's a really sweet spot to be in.
Oh yeah.
I did that for about 8 years, most recently. And then, the years with Rick Dees were in the early 90s were really special too. And that really helped forge a career in broadcasting. I was already up and running, but, working with someone like Rick made it got things more vertical.
Yes.
Got you going straight up.
The thing about the Dees is, I worked with him as well, but he is what most people aren't in terms of they really understand radio. And he was born into radio and did it from the time he was 17, still doing it now. But it's just like, so when you worked with him, you really got an education on what to do, what not to do, and how to do it.
Paul, it was only 4 years, but it was the four really excellent years, because you learn the basics. And doing a morning show in a major market like Los Angeles and being a part of it helped me become a better program director, a better producer. I actually did a morning show in San Diego with a buddy of ours. And so those years with Rick just kind of served as jumping off points in other areas. So, and plus, just such a great guy and so funny and, and a star. I always tell people, hitch your wagon to a star. try not to link yourself to some loser just because you like free records or like going to concerts for free and you love music.
Yeah.
That you can do separate. But if you can find yourself a Rick Dees, a Howard Stern, a Ryan Seacrest, a Tom Likas, hit your wagon to that star and things really start flowing for you.
So when you work with guys like Howard Stern, Rick Dees, all that, what is the takeaway in terms of, on a daily basis? Say you're working with Howard, there's got to be really, really great highs. There's got to be really, really great lows. What is a great high for you with Howard Stern? Something
well, Howard Stern, again, was a syndicated show, came out of New York. But when he came to Los Angeles or Las Vegas, we did a lot of live shows. So one time we did Howard Stern at the Playboy Mansion.
Uh-huh.
And that was awesome. And he had guests, including Magic Johnson, Rod Stewart performed, Smash Mouth performed. It was really great. And then in Las Vegas, we did a bunch of shows there from the Hard Rock, I believe it was. And, you're doing live broadcasts, they're doing the show. You've got clients there, you've got producers working with you. And it was really great. I guess the only bad thing about the Howard Stern shows in Las Vegas, I smoked a pack of cigarettes in 2 hours. Drinking tequila during the show, because I'm the program director. So I've got to.
And you kind of lost track of yourself?
I think I did.
Yeah.
I might have got overserved at the event. And I've got a great picture with me and Howard, one of my prized possessions.
Here it is right here. Take a look at it.
Yeah, look at it. Well, here's what you got to notice, Paul.
Yeah.
Howard Stern is a superstar, looks like a star.
He looks like a star. And then
I look a little overserved.
You look like you should have called Uber about 25 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, luckily I stumbled back to my room at the end of the night, but again, I wouldn't trade any of that for the world. And I think, but I think the real takeaway, since the name of the show is Streaming Legends, when you're in the presence of Howard or Rick or Donovan McNabb, Pro Bowl athletes, there's something special about them. And I've always found that I like being around people that are really successful, really driven, really motivated. And in the case of Rick or Howard or even Mark and Brian, I did get to work with them for a short period of time in LA as well.
Yeah.
You know what they all have in common, Paul, is
money.
Well,
and lots of it.
Yeah, they're all rich. I
mean,
but here's why they're rich. Because it's a business.
Right.
It's not, we're just disc jockeys to get dates off the request lines or get free CDs. Those guys showed me in many, many ways of how to run a business, your morning show, your radio station. And that's why you parlay it into millions and millions of dollars, while the rest of the industry, who just wants to take pictures with Bono from U2 and hang out at backstage at concerts, they don't have a pot to piss in financially.
Well, and I mean, I think you say it best. When you deal with these guys, you see the other side of it. And, I think we fall in love with when we're interns and we're going to work with Rick Dees, we're going to work with Howard Stern, we're going to work with Ryan Seacrest, all of that. It's like, you see that side of it. Once you get in the door and you're there, you really do see the business side of their brain. And it really is fascinating to watch how they maneuver, because then you start to really see how they got there. And you don't really know that as a listener, just sitting back until you get in there and you really see it. But it's quite a thing to be part of that.
And I think it's really important because like guys like you and me, to our degree, we saw it, we bonded off of it, and we use that moving forward. But again, the road is littered with people who can be around really big talent and they get jealous or envious or whatever they get, and then they get sidetracked. I always viewed it as like, hey, I got lucky to be around these guys, and I'm going to take that opportunity to take whatever I can get into my world. I'm like, look, you know me, Paul.
Yes.
I'm not a driver, type A personality.
Right.
I'm like more of the middle ground.
You're no Trip to Hollywood, as you like to say.
Well, Lord knows. And even though Hollywood has gotten even worse, I'm no Trip to Beverly Hills either.
Right.
I'm barely a trip to Compton.
That's it.
But here's the point.
Yeah.
If you're smart enough or lucky enough, or if your career takes you in those paths, you need to learn from each one of these people. And I've been lucky to do that along the way.
And I know that those are highs, all highs. Yeah. I remember a low
Yeah.
I'll bring it up, of you with, and it wasn't, and again, you can clear this up, but he's a syndicated show. You're not in his studio. You're not any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell me what happened. But I was listening one day, and I remember him barbecuing you on the air, talking about Jack Silver this, Jack Silver that, and he was mad about something that had to do with scheduling or something. I don't know what it was. Do you remember that?
Are you talking about Howard Stern?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, here, take it from the top. When you're getting barbecued by Howard, or Tom Leykis used to make fun of me. He thinks I'm like Larry David. So they played the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme
right
every time I showed up on the air. Because sometimes,
right.
I'm supposed to be the program director behind the scenes, but somehow they drag me in. So if you're getting barbecued by Howard, it's probably a good thing. Yeah. I've actually had quite a few, like when we put him on the air in Chicago, I actually was part of that. He was in his heyday and he was really drilling me on, I have to support him and hate everybody else on the station. That was a classic day. And I had the Hot Under the Collar award that year because I was on the hot seat.
I think that might have been the one I heard where he was just all over you because he felt like you weren't supporting him enough or something.
Yeah, some of it's for show, I think.
Of course,
but I'm cool with it. I always say, as long as the checks are clearing on the 1st and 15th of the month, Paul.
Yeah, I know that's what you're into.
Well, I'm in it for the cash. I'm, albeit peanuts.
Yes.
Again. But yeah. I don't have a big lifestyle, as you can obviously tell.
Well, you do collect. It looks like you collect baseballs and all of that stuff, right? You're a big baseball fan.
Growing up, I'm into baseball. I love sports of all sorts, but I was lucky to get some autographed baseballs early on, and I kept my baseball card collection. A lot of people will say they had baseball cards when they were a kid, but their mom threw it away.
Right.
I was lucky to schlep my baseball cards with me on my radio journey.
Oh yeah.
Chicago to Peoria, Illinois to St. Louis.
Oh, nice.
San Francisco, LA, Chicago, San Diego, back to LA. And I still have all my baseball cards and my autographed baseballs. So,
okay. What is your best baseball signed?
My favorite player was Willie Mays.
Oh,
he was from the San Francisco Giants and
Say Hey.
So, the Say Hey kid, and I just love him. And so I've got a couple of signed autographs from him, and I met him at a function. So that was like a big day for me. But, it's the small wins, Paul. It's the small wins. You get a Willie Mays autographed baseball, you think you're king of the hill.
I know how that goes, And then so with Rick Dees, what would be a high point for you? That's something that you remember from that time with Rick, or an interaction that just really stays with you?
Sure. Well, first of all, everything Rick did was first class.
Yes.
And he would play in the Bob Hope Chrysler Classic golf tournament in Palm Springs every year.
At La Quinta.
At La Quinta. So we would get some hotel rooms at La Quinta. He'd do the radio show in the mobile studio, and then he'd go off and play golf.
Right.
And you, me, others in our crew would go in the jacuzzi and play tennis and, go for nice Mexican dinners and stuff. And I think, because radio doesn't pay anything, the pay scale was pretty low back then. So I'm sitting there in a jacuzzi at the La Quinta Resort.
Living it up, looking big.
Yeah. I might as well been the king of the hill. So those were some of the times that I remember with Rick that were very fond. And he was always, and the other thing I used to love with him was when he'd come back from vacation, his weeks of vacation, and he'd bring in like the apple or the peach cobbler.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be baking at his house and bring in the desserts. And so,
well, I can go you one better on that. He used to in the mornings, we loved it. Yeah. He had a little oven in the next studio. And so we'd be in there working, and then all of a sudden we'd start smelling the smell of these delicious scones. And I'm telling you, the smell was, and he was in there in the middle between records, he was baking, and he'd be baking. And then he'd bring, you know how he is, he'd bring us these scones hot with this jam and butter. And I mean, it was like heaven. It really was. He's such a host. He's the host with the most.
There's nobody like Rick. And, and you got to work with Ryan. I'm sure he had, they're very generous people. And
they really are.
And when you're part of the crew, and that's what I tell people also, not only hitch your wagon to a star, but lead the crew. You know, the best thing you can do for Rick Dees, Howard Stern, Tom Likas, Mark and Brian, everyone, is just make sure everybody else is falling into line.
That's
So
it.
that allows them to do their job and to be funny on the air. And you know, it's tough to do a 4-hour radio show every day. So you need guys like Paul Joseph, Jack Silver, and others to just make sure that everybody, well, first of all, they're making the scones correctly.
Yes, it's
First.
important. You got to have the right recipe. Yeah, and the D's has it.
Yeah, and then make sure that the program director is not being overserved at a company function.
Right.
Those are
And
the
Ry-
two things.
And Ryan didn't want to make anything. He wanted everything delivered. So he was more of just bring it, you know.
Which is fine.
That's fine.
And, you
It's
know,
great.
again,
It's a good way to be.
And you know, Paul, the key of that is, and again, I've used this expression, people get jealous from that. Oh, why would we be kissing Ryan Seacrest's butt? Why do we kiss, you know, Rick's butt, Stern's butt? His name's on the marquee, boys.
That's it.
It's not my fault. You know, Jack Silver, Paul, I wanted to be, and I was a disc jockey when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have a froggy voice and I'm not very funny. And I got kicked upstairs to be like a manager.
Well, there you go.
So
Yeah.
I'm not jealous of or envious of guys that have made it on the air side. And
Right.
I'll do you one better. I just like helping those guys continue their growth, because the other side of the coin for me and being a legend, which is, again, I appreciate you saying that, is to make sure that it's stretched out. You
Right.
don't want it to be a flash and then it's done. All the people we talk about and the people I respect so much in the industry have long careers that evolve and change with the times, but yet, you know, they're still the same person underneath, whether it's women like Ellen Kay or guys like Tom Likas. They're still great people. It's just they knew how to stretch that thing out and not burn it out in a year. Like, and Lord knows the road is littered.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
With professionals in all careers who get high on their horse the first couple of years, start burning through stuff, getting into drugs or weed, or, well, not weed.
Yeah.
Disregard that. Nothing wrong with that. But anyway, no, they get sidetracked. And then they get envious, then they get jealous, and then their career starts spiraling down.
And you mentioned Ellen Kay, and of course we worked with her for a long time. And she's, first of all, a wonderful person, just a sweetheart. But secondly, very, very focused. And she knew she started in, like, you know, Indiana, San Diego, all of that.
Right,
but
right.
her big thing was she always knew, and she always said this to me, I always knew where I was gonna end up and what I wanted to do.
Right.
And she set that as her guiding light. And so here she is now. She's got the #1 morning show in Los Angeles on Coast, you know. So I mean, you have to be focused, you have to do all that. And then we flash forward to today, and now you're heavily involved in sports. And I know you've dealt with a lot of wacky characters. One of the wacky characters you've dealt with, whom I love, is Pat McAfee, because I think he's wild and he's funny. And the way he started his show, you know, where did he start his show at? You know where he started.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you bring up Pat McAfee. And just before the new year, Pat closed a deal with one of the sports betting things. I think it's FanDuel or DraftKings. I apologize for not even knowing. But no, well, I remember early on when he was still playing, Westwood One and the guy I was working with at the time wanted him to do some reporting from, I think it was a Pro Bowl or might've been the Super Bowl.
Uh-huh.
And you could tell right away he had the gift of gab, and he was a personality.
Right.
All right. And then fast forward, we did some stuff with him in Westwood One. And it might have been a little constricting for a guy like that, you know, regular syndicated radio, because Pat McAfee is a free spirit. And then he left us. And then he left us and started his own thing, and has really grown into a hell of and someone just told me recently at a holiday party, how could they pay $30 million a year for Pat McAfee? It's just a streaming service.
Wow.
Hey, dude, he's very directed. And there again, he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to talk to men in his audience that like sports betting. And he parlayed it into a really good gig, got Aaron Rodgers off the couch in Green Bay to come on his show every Tuesday. And again, I'm always impressed with that sort of success and stick-to-itiveness.
Well, I am, and his timeline for that success is pretty amazing, because I think he started broadcasting his shows. Was it in a trailer or a truck or
Oh
something?
yeah,
or...
no, we had a yeah.
It was
Part
crazy.
of the Westwood One thing, we had to set up a connection between a trailer
Right.
and our studio.
Yeah.
I'm like, isn't there another studio somewhere in Indianapolis? But no, he wanted to do things his way. And Paul,
And that, yeah.
the true legends are the ones that see the future. And I've never been really good at it. I've just tried to hang on with both claws with my career.
I know
But
your hands look
like,
a little red because you're kind of
right. Because I believe me, I've scratched down very far many times. But
yeah.
But a guy like Pat McAfee and others, they see their future and they go for it. And
you know what? What I was amazed at is I took my son to a WWE event, and out walks Pat McAfee. He's an announcer, and he's standing on the table screaming and doing all this stuff. And here comes The Rock is coming out, but he's now involved in that, and that's huge money. And I give him credit. I mean, the guy he's amazing.
And you know, I think what the legends of the future will be, Paul, are the Pat McAfees of the world, which are multimedia celebrities. So you're doing WWE over here. Yeah, I think he does some ESPN college football.
Right.
He's got his own show, and clients like DraftKings or FanDuel, I apologize, I forget what deal he cut, but they're looking for that engagement with the audience. So when Pat McAfee says you bet with my service, they do it.
Yeah, so exactly.
Good call.
And I think
that's good call.
Yeah, that's the future of this business. And everybody gets on, and you hear people now and they want to badmouth radio. And radio has always been the redheaded stepchild of the industry. And now it's like, but I view it more as the changing. They of course need to change with the times, and they're doing that slowly, but unfortunately it's not happening. It's happening more at the bottom, which, and it's not really happening creatively at the top yet for radio. That's the problem.
Yeah, that would be something, again, I hear the same thing you hear, people bashing radio, and they've been bashing it since television came on in the 40s or whatever. Television is going to kill radio. Video will kill the radio star.
Right.
And radio just doesn't get killed.
No.
I think that the growth of podcasting, which again, you would have knocked me over with a feather if you'd have told me that some of these podcasts would be as successful as they are, like Joe Rogan and others.
Right.
When it first got started, because radio was the behemoth. But here again, Paul, Howard Stern goes to Sirius XM, Mark and Brian retire, Kevin and Bean retire. All the stalwarts of radio, there's a few left.
Yep.
They're still pulling big ratings, but quite a few of them have left, and in their wake, like even the station I ran when Howard Stern left our station, we had 3 years with Adam Carolla, and just things were never the same. And so we had to flip formats, and that's how that happened. So I think, enough with the bad rapping radio.
Yeah.
Salute the audio guys who have parlayed their thing like a Pat McAfee into a multimedia thing, because that's how people are using radio and audio and even video like this. I mean, if anybody's looking at this thing, I hope they're wearing dark sunglasses, because I get a little red in the face.
And it's not, it's hard. Radio's hard. Let's face it. It's hard to get ratings. It's hard to be successful.
Yeah.
We even know Jimmy Kimmel tried to produce a radio show, and that did not work out. I mean, it's not easy. It's a very difficult thing to do, and everything has to fall into place. And that's why, these key stars are always going to be key, and you're always going to have these people that work for you. So what would you say to the people listening that want to get into radio or want to be podcast stars or whatever?
I'm saying if you love broadcasting, but that's the thing, Paul. Let's not just say radio, because radio
it's not radio.
All encompassing of other things. So if it's podcasting, video casting, if it's television, if it's TikTok, whatever the hell it is, and just be ready to change. And I guess I would leave you with this thought. You do have to evolve over time. One of the things drives me nuts is when I sit with guys who have been in the radio industry for a long time, and go, it's the "you kids get off my lawn" guy.
Yes.
Man, back in the day when I had this and when I had that, and things were different then, and radio was better then, and blah, 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 blah. And hey, dude, that stuff, it happened. We were part of it. and it does
It's
or
over.
doesn't exist now. It's over, which is
It's
I'm
over.
fine with that.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I really am excited about where the industry is going.
Yeah.
The podcasts, digital,
Sure.
all this content consumption is where it's at now. And, there's plenty for people to do and invest in and have fun with. So, I think it's really, we leave it on a strong note that, you want to get in this industry, jump in, just be willing to roll up your sleeves and work for free for a while and get it going.
Well, like I hope you'll always do on the Streaming Legends show, Paul.
Yes.
Leave on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
Ah!
That's as high as I can get.
That's a high
So,
note.
hey, thank you so much for coming on and spending a little time with us. I'm sure down the road we'll have you back after you've improved your golf game, and we can talk more about sports and
You got it.
and all of that. We
You'll be getting
appreciate you.
You'll be getting an invoice from my agent,
Mm-hmm.
and just
Good.
rip that up then.
I believe me, I will. Just use that use that email I gave you, because that's not mine. Thanks, Jack, for coming on. The great Jack Silver with us. A lot of fun. We really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to Streaming Legends with PJ. Make sure to leave a rating, review, and don't forget to recommend this show to a friend. For more podcasts and online content, go to thisisfunner.com.